Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's wonderful to see all of you while we're still digesting our Thanksgiving turkey. This past Sunday, my family and I went to the Texas Renaissance Fair. This has become somewhat of an annual tradition for us. My wife and I used to go a lot when we were younger, and now that we have kids, it has become a family affair. Now, there are some things that the Hodson family has to do when we go to the Renaissance Fair. The first thing that's going to happen is we're going to buy an enormous bag of kettle corn. You know, like they had in medieval Europe. Ye old kettle corn. Yay. Then the boys, they're going to want to go dip their hands in wax and make a little wax hand sculpture. And then my wife is going to make us sit through the Birds of Prey show. If you don't know what this show is, it's where some dude in Renaissance garb comes out and just makes a bunch of bad bird puns while showing off hawks and vultures and owls. And I've been with my wife for so long that I have literally seen this show easily at least 10 times. So I just lift off the puns right along with him. He's watching us like a hawk. It's just And there are a lot of other shows at the Ren Fair, but the problem is that not all of them are G-rated, if you know what I mean. Some of these saucy performers can throw in some wordy-durds or some Renaissance adult humor. So it's not always easy finding entertainment that we can watch with our kids. But this year, my wife was looking through the program booklet that we got at the entrance gate, and she saw that there was a comedic juggling act at noon. So guess what show we all got to see at noon? Now, I don't know about you, but I had never seen a comedic juggling act before. I've seen comedians and I've seen jugglers. I've never seen a guy try to do both. And after watching this guy's act, I can see why you should not do both. Maybe I'm being too harsh, but I think I can officially say that those two genres, comedy and juggling, maybe they should stay independent of one another. I think the worst part was this guy started off his show kind of while passerbys were still taking their seats. He started it off by doing a Q&A. A Q&A with a juggler. Okay, usually the reason jugglers are interesting is because they're catching stuff, not talking about catching stuff. And keep in mind, because this was a G-rated show, a lot of the audience were kids asking questions that kids would ask. So one kid raised his hand at the Q&A for the juggler and said, "When is the last time you went to the hospital?" All the adults were eerily quiet, and this weird guy said, "Well, that's a great story, kids." And then proceeded to tell us this very violent story about how he was performing at a public library and fell off his rope and broke his wrists and set his pants on fire. It was a terrible way to start his act. I almost killed myself in front of all of these kids. Not good. And then, of course, my son, because he's my kid, he raised his hand and he asked another weird question. He said, "Have you ever had any jobs besides being a juggler?" This poor guy was obviously not prepared for this question because he said, "Well, I used to work for a drywall company. I got involved in a pyramid scheme with my uncle and we lost a bunch of money." This is what he's telling us. Really awkward to listen to. But finally, after what seemed like a long time, he finally started doing some juggling stuff. And friends, I gotta tell you, that stuff wasn't good either. It's really no fun to watch a juggler who can't juggle well. It's really not fun to watch a juggler who keeps dropping stuff. He had these metal cups. They looked more like funnels, and he would throw them up and try, keyword try, to collect them when they fell. And for a while, he caught them, and then he did not. And every time one of the cups fell, there would be a big, disappointed groan from the audience. Ah. And then, I kid you not, he did one trick where he announced, "And now for the grand finale." And he tossed the thing in the air, and it just fell right in front of him. Thud. And he said, "Well, I guess it's not so great." Whew. Then he brought out this miniature ladder, and he would balance it on the ground, and then he would walk up it, and he would do start juggling things. And friends, I gotta say, while he was juggling fiery torches, while attempting to climb a ladder with no one holding it, this was very anxiety-provoking, especially since I just watched him drop a bunch of metal cups for 5 minutes. I thought he was going to set us all on fire. I watched him walk up the ladder and down the ladder, and he'd balance just right. All the while, he's telling bad jokes and juggling these fireballs. And all I could do was sit there and think, this is so perfect for this week's Parshat. Nice segue there, you see. You see, in Parshat Vayetze, we're told that while Jacob is traveling from Beersheba to Haran, he stops for the night, and we're told he has a vivid dream. And in his dream, he too sees a ladder with angels ascending and descending, up and down. And when he wakes up, the Torah tells us, he says, quote, "Surely God was in this place, and I didn't even know it." Now, friends, let me tell you, if there was ever a place where I did not expect to be thinking holy thoughts, it was while I was watching a nervous juggler drop metal cups and climb a wobbly ladder at the Ren Fair. But there I was, eating my kettle corn, ye old kettle corn, thinking about Jacob. I was looking at ladders and thinking about ladders, thinking about what it means to notice the holiness in the middle of life's chaos. You see, the rabbis of our tradition teach that Jacob's ladder isn't just a vision of angels on some celestial staircase. No, they say that this is a picture of what it means to be a human being trying to live a spiritual life. They say that some days we as human beings are climbing, and some days we're stumbling. Some days we too are juggling so many things: family, work, stress, mistakes, hopes. And sometimes it feels like everything is one dropped cup away from crashing all down on us. And other days, the ladder itself doesn't feel very steady at all. And yet, Jacob's realization is that even there, in the uncertainty of his dream, even in the wobbling and the mess of it all, God was still present with him. Achen yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh v'anochi lo yadati. God was in this place, and I didn't even know it. Dear friends, that's the miracle of Jacob's dream. It's not the angels or the ladder, but the idea that holiness isn't only found in the moments where everything is balanced perfectly. Holiness is found in the moments where we notice, even briefly, that we're being held, guided, protected, and accompanied by God, even when life feels like a juggling act that's not going great, and it was not great. The sages of our tradition teach us that Jacob had passed by that very spot where he had had the dream. They say he had passed by it before, many times in fact. They say that he had walked right by it without even noticing anything special. It was only in the quiet of that night when he was tired, vulnerable, and alone. Only then could he finally see that God had been with him the whole time. Isn't that often the case for us as well? We walk through our days focused on the cups that we might drop, the ladders we're trying not to fall off, the questions we don't know how to answer. We think that holiness lives somewhere else, maybe somewhere calmer, somewhere more put together, somewhere more angelic. But Parshat Vayetze tells us that holiness is right where we are, in our routines, in our distractions, in our anxiety, in our family traditions, even the silly ones, and sometimes even at the Texas Renaissance Fair. The challenge of this Parsha isn't just to believe that God is present, it's to believe the kind of people who notice God's presence, who pause long enough to say, wait, God is in this moment too. So my dear friends, my blessing for this week is may we learn to see the sacred in the strange places. May we learn the holy in the hectic places. And may we see the divine in the ordinary of places. And may we each have a moment, maybe even a surprising one, when we can say, like Jacob, surely God was in this place, and now I know it. Shabbat Shalom.